You're watching Seahawks Today by Chat Sports. Tyler Jones here with you. Thanks for joining us. As on today's show, we're going to get you caught up to speed on the latest roster moves for your Seattle Seahawks. After the win against the New York Jets, John Schnieder and Mike Macdonald made some notable moves over the last few days. We'll tell you about all of them and what we expect to come from these decisions that were made in just a matter of moments. Before we do, folks, the run to the playoffs is on right here on Seahawks Today. We are bringing you our daily coverage, sometimes 2 and 3 videos a day, live shows every week. We have our watch parties on game days, Q&A mailbags, and more. It's your one-stop shop for all things Seahawks. We're trying to reach our next milestone, 60,500 subscribers, less than 400 away from reaching that next mark. If you are a member of the 12s, you got to be subscribed to Seahawks Today. Subscribe now for free, youtube.com/Seahawks TV, and we'll get started with today's show. Let's begin with looking at the latest roster moves for the Seahawks. They did a number of things, from converting guys to the practice squad, releasing players from the practice squad, waiving a player that saw a decent amount of playing time, actually, and also made some additions. We'll tell you about all of them. Let's start with a couple guys that were moved to the practice squad. Jaren Hall got the promotion to the 53-man roster last week. Now he's back to the practice squad. Same with Okada at the safety position. He goes back to the practice squad as well. I would think that there's a decent chance that Okada ends up back on the 53-man roster at some point. Laviska Shenault was waived after a rough showing this past week in the game against the New York Jets. He was one of Seattle's primary return specialists, also at the wide receiver position as well. And after a bad showing that included 2 fumbles, he was let go. N'Keal Harry, who hasn't been around too long, was released from the practice squad, former first-round draft pick by the New England Patriots. And he was a guy that was expected to be a big-time player when New England picked him up, and he turned into a big bust, and the Seahawks bring him into the practice squad. They decided to move on. Quinton Bohanna was signed to the practice squad, brought back. We talked about him on yesterday's show, and I think he's going to be a name to watch. We'll explain more coming up in just a bit. And then my personal favorite, Mike Novitsky is back, folks. The former Kansas Jayhawks center from my school. He was an undrafted free agent by the Seahawks. He is back on the practice squad with a chance to prove himself, the former All-Big 12 selection there out of KU. So let's break these down piece by piece. Let's start with Shenault. Shenault, this is a guy that had to go. They had to make this decision. It was not going well for what he had done on special teams, and there was just too many mistakes that the Seahawks could not justify keeping him around with what exactly went down. And they were pretty high on him at one point, bringing him in early March, April, that range actually. And they thought that he could be an impact player, but it just simply hasn't worked out. With that said, D. Williams also has struggled in the special teams coverage. It wasn't just Shenault on Sunday, but D. Williams made some crucial mistakes, and he's been a problem. I would think that he's on the hot seat, that he's got work to do to hold on to his job, that he can't be having any performances like he did last week. Bohanna, I think, is a name to watch out for. And we'll explain more in just a bit, but with what we've seen from Jonathan Hankins not having a good year, and I know some of you are going to say, what about the interception he had against San Francisco? One play does not define a season, folks. There's been a whole lot more bad than good. I think Bohanna's got a shot to potentially be a rotational piece, be a backup for Seattle on that active roster. And there's one open roster spot that remains on the 53-man roster. Who is going to snag it? We will wait and see who gets that spot when it's all said and done. So let's ask you, who should the Seahawks add next to the 53-man roster? Is there somebody that comes to mind, whether it's a practice squad promotion or somebody outside the organization that you would like to be seen to fill that roster spot? Weigh in the comment section. Let us know what you think. Today's show is sponsored by Game Time. Game Time is the place to go for the best seats, the lowest prices guaranteed. Whether you're looking for tickets to sporting events, concerts, theater productions, comedy shows, and more, Game Time has got you covered. Game Time has a new feature called Game Time Picks that makes getting tickets to see your favorite teams play live even easier. Game Time Picks filters out the fluff to show you only incredible deals and great seats, so you don't have to waste time searching through thousands of tickets. Here's how it works. You choose the event you want to go to. Maybe it's a Seahawks game. Maybe you want to go see the Kraken, whoever it may be. They got the prices listed. You choose your seat. See if you like that seat or not. Get the visual with their seat views, and you might stumble upon a super deal. That's going to be one you don't want to pass up on. And then you're checking out with Apple Pay, Google Pay, Venmo, all major credit card providers. Your purchase is covered with the most flexible customer service policy in the ticketing industry. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code ChatSports for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account, redeem code CHATSPORTS for $20 off. Download Game Time today. What time is it? Game Time. The link is in the comments and the description of today's video. Game Time, proud partner of Seahawks Today. Now, I'll say this. If the Seahawks don't surprise us with an outside signing of bringing someone else in that's not here currently, then I would watch out for Bohanna to get that last roster spot for this Seahawks team. He's got a decent amount of experience playing for the Cowboys, the Lions, and the Titans. This is somebody that's very familiar with defensive coordinator AD, playing under him for 2 years with the Dallas Cowboys. Comes from a good pedigree. His uncle was a former NFL linebacker, Brian Ingram. His father, a rapper, Gangster Black. 34 career games played with 13 starts there. And, you know, you look at where this Seahawks defensive line is, and the thing that I keep going back to is I really like the starters, but I have some question marks about the depth. And we saw what happened when the Seahawks were without Byron Murphy, how much of a significant drop-off there was. Bohanna played in 7 snaps for Seattle against Detroit. So there was a point in time this year where they did call his name and see some potential where it was worth bringing him to the 53-man roster. And the thing that he brings to the table, this is somebody that can plug gaps in the run. And you look at his numbers. They're not anything that is too flashy. But we've gone over the scouting report and all this. This is somebody that has shown that he could be potentially that difference maker with what Seattle is looking for to help out in that run game. Now, I'll say this. One of the silver linings that we've seen from this Seahawks team since the bye week is that the run defense has greatly improved over the last few weeks, and in large part due to the addition of Ernest Jones. The Seahawks defense has held their opponents to under 100 yards in 3 of their last 4 games. They gave up 131 against San Francisco, but for the most part, they did a good job of keeping Christian McCaffrey in check for the most part in that game. You take a look at the Seahawks run defense rankings, and although they're not great, if we're going to be honest with you, they are drastically improved from what they were even just a few weeks ago. Seattle currently ranked 16th in rush play percentage, 25th in yards per rush, 17th in rushes per game, 21st in rushing yards per game, and 10th in rushing touchdowns per game. And you look at the depth chart, this is what we're talking about here, folks. Williams, Murphy, and Reed have all been solid, holding things down at those 3 spots. But Robertson, Harris, we haven't really seen him do what was expected of him since the Seahawks brought him in. Hankins has had a disappointing campaign, and Mike Morris, you know, has been up and down, mostly down for this season. With that said, I think that Bohanna could be a name to watch to potentially get in the mix and see what he could bring, especially when it comes to his abilities to stop the run. How would you grade the Seahawks roster moves of what they did this go-round? A, B, C, D, or F? I'll give you my grade in a moment, but want to hear from you guys first. Weigh in and let us know what you think. I'm going to go with a B- because I don't think you made yourselves any worse. And I know some people are going to not like Shenault getting waived. And I understand that there is potential with Shenault that, you know, he's had flashes. But I think Kenny McIntosh likely steps into that role and should do a better job. So you didn't get worse. You didn't get a whole lot better. But you did, I think, bring in a guy in Bohanna that has a shot potentially to compete for playing time, I'll go with a B-. For continuing Seahawks coverage, subscribe now to Seattle Seahawks Today. I'm Tyler Jones. Thanks for joining us. We'll see you next time.